ॐ त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकञ्चापि नमामि विद्यै। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्यासम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितप्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवत्वेषिणीं। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला। अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णाः खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं। लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमलप्रध्वंसिन श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। ॐ कृष्णाय परमात्मने नमः। So we are in the 16th chapter where we are discussing the Daiv-Asura-Sampad. And Bhagavan is enumerating all the Daivi Sampad. Daivi Sampad means the gunas that a Daivi person should have. The gunas that are necessary for us to be in this spiritual path. And in the first sloka, 9 of those gunas are enumerated. The first sloka is Sri Bhagavanuvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yogya Vyavasthithi Dhaanam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam. Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthithi Dhaanam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam. So we had seen Abhayam and Sattva Samshuddhihi in the previous classes. Abhayam being fearlessness, and then the Sattva Samshuddhihi, we saw basically there are two meanings for it. One is pure mind in a general context where all the good values are to be there, the pure mind which does not have kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryam in your mind, where all the good values are enumerated into a single value. That is the samanya artham. Then we saw a vishesha artham, basically where we said no deception, paravanchana abhavaha, we saw that. Basically no deception or no betrayal, no dishonesty, as sattva samshuddhi. Then the third value that Bhagavan is calling out here is Jnana Yoga Vyavasthithi. And we said this is already seen in the 13th chapter values. One of the values was Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam. Basically that is the value 20, the last value that we saw, where Bhagavan talked about constant and complete Atma Vichara, or basically doing Jnana Yoga. So here when we say Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi, Shankaracharya gives a different kind of explanation here. He basically is kind of slight difference, where he splits the words Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi into three words: Jnana, Yoga and Vyavasthitihi. And Jnana here means Atma Jnana, as in the sadhanas or the direct sadhanas that are related to Atma Jnana. And the direct sadhanas we had seen for getting Atma Jnana in the introduction to Vedanta classes, we had seen the sadhanas that directly take you to Moksham are Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhidhyasanam. So Shravanam and Mananam. So here Jnana, according to Shankara, means Shravanam and Mananam. And Shravanam is Shastra Acharyataga Atma Tattva Padartha Avagatihi. Basically understanding the Atma Tattva with the help of Shastras and Guru. So learning this Shastram from a Guru. But Shravanam in generally means listening. Basically listening to what? Listening to Shastras. And here in particular to Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. Because that is where the Atma Tattva is explained in detail. And generally when we listen to something new, what happens? We normally get some doubts. So we get those doubts, and it is natural to get those doubts clarified. And that process is called as Mananam. Mananam means thinking or reflecting. Mananam means thinking actually, or reflecting basically. So when we listen and then we reflect on what has been taught to us, and while reflecting we may get some doubts. Clarifying those doubts is Mananam. So Shravanam is listening to Shastras, at the end of which we understand what Shastras is trying to communicate to us or tell us. And then at the end of Mananam, as a process, if I follow that, I will have doubtless knowledge. The knowledge becomes clear knowledge, doubtless knowledge. So Jnana here, Adi Shankara says, it refers to the direct sadhanas, which is Shravanam and Mananam. Yoga means here, he says, it means dhyanam. Yoga, as I said, has got multiple meanings. We had seen yoga means yuj. It comes from the root yuj, which means connect. It also means, yoga also means sadhana. We say karma yoga, jnana yoga. So sadhana also is generally a sadhana. If you want to say sadhana, we say yoga also. Yoga is also used to represent title. For this chapter we say Daiv-Asura-Sampad yoga. So yoga also can be used to refer title. Yoga in this context, Shankara says it refers to dhyanam. Dhyanam is meditation. And here, what is the object of dhyanam? Normally, whenever we are meditating, we have to have an object of meditation. And in this case, the object of meditation is Atma Jnana. So, if the object of meditation is Atma Jnana, then that particular dhyanam is called Nidhidhyasanam. The third direct sadhana that is required or that is needed for moksha. So here Shankara says this yoga refers to Nidhidhyasana. So just like when there is a diet when having medicine. So when we take medicines, especially in Ayurveda, there is always a diet that goes along with the medicines. Similarly, for a sadhaka, when he is in the path of Jnana Yoga, there are some diet controls and there are some medicines. The medicine, as we see, is to come out of ignorance is Shravanam, Mananam. Shravanam and Mananam are the medicines that are going to take us out of this ignorance, the ignorance of about self. But what is the diet that goes along with this? The diet that goes along with this is Shamaha and Damaha. Basically controlling our mind and senses. Shamaha is control of mind, Damaha is control of senses. Again, this is one of the Shatka Sampanti we had seen in Sadhana Chatushtayam. Introduction to Vedanta, what is the qualification of a spiritual student? We had seen Viveka, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, Mumukshutvam. In the Shatka Sampatti, Shamaha Adi Satya Sampatti. Shamaha is one of those qualities that are needed. Shamaha means controlling the mind, disciplining the mind, regulating the mind. Similarly, Damaha means controlling the senses, regulating the senses, not getting the mind or sense organs to get distracted, or not getting the mind and sense organs attracted to bhogas. That is called as Shamaha and Damaha. So generally, whatever tapas or whatever diet or whatever control that we are doing during Shravanam and Mananam, it should also be continued during the Nidhidhyasanam phase. So just after Mananam, once the knowledge becomes doubtless knowledge, we cannot stop those things. It has to continue. So the tapas or the discipline that we have to bring in, it should continue. In fact, it should be even more during Nidhidhyasanam. Because Nidhidhyasanam is a time or is the phase by which that doubtless knowledge becomes my personality. Just as how the food we eat becomes the nutrition for our body, in the same way the knowledge that we have gained from the Guru and Shastras should become our personality. And during this phase, we need a single focused mind with sense control. It should be a sharp mind, it should be a focused mind, the mind shouldn't wander, and the senses also should not wander. So that's how we should be during this yoga phase or the Nidhidhyasana phase. So Jnana Yoga, we have got the meaning for Jnana Yoga. Now Vyavasthithi. Vyavasthithi here means Nishta. Nishta means continuation, or basically continuing the sadhanas until the sadhyam is reached. So being in Jnana Yoga Nishta means always thinking about always doing Atma Vichara, always doing Shravana Manana Nidhidhyasanam, always the thoughts are full of Atma related thoughts. So we are supposed to do this sadhana until we achieve the result. And what is the result that we want? Purnatvam, Moksham, where there is no sorrow, there is no feeling of any want, there is no kind of any guilt or hurt feeling. There is no question of any craving. There is no question of any leftover desire. There is Purnatva. So until that time, we do this Shravana Manana Nidhidhyasanam. But generally what we do, whenever we take Jnana Yoga or any of these sadhanas, spiritual sadhanas we want to do, even if we start a early morning yoga or meditation practice, we start doing it for some days, then we put a stop, we get distracted, then we are doing other things for a few days, and then we start again. But here what it is, this is true not just for many of things, going to gym, going for a walk, running, jogging, or even if we take some vradam or if we say, okay, every day I have to do this parayanam, I have to chant this sloka on a daily basis. We try to take some breaks in between. So here Bhagavan says Vyavasthithi, it has to be Nishta, continuation. The Jnana Yoga should continue. And it should continue until the result is achieved. Just like when we are eating, normally hunger, to overcome hunger we eat, and we generally continue to eat until the hunger is, until we are able to overcome that hunger completely. So and sometimes what we do, we also make sure that we overeat, just to make sure that the hunger doesn't appear again after we eat, at least for a few hours. So in the same manner, we should be continuing these sadhanas until the result is reached. So basically, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthithi means Shravana Manana Nidhidhyasana Nishta, Jnana Yoga, doing Atma Vichara. And then the question is, how can I follow this sadhana? How can I follow this sadhana without a break continuously? Shastras say basically, a sadhaka needs Mumukshutvam. What is Mumukshutvam? Tivra icha, a deep desire. There should be a deep desire to come out of samsara. There should be a deep desire to be in the state of Purnatvam. For achieving any outcome, we need to have a deep desire. Otherwise, we don't act. We want to get the job. If there is a deep desire, we act on it. If we want to pass a particular exam, there should be a deep desire to do that. Only then we achieve it. We want to get a particular house. Then if there is a deep desire, then we work towards it. So this deep desire is important. In the same way, for us to be in Jnana Yoga, then there has to be a deep desire for Moksha. Mumukshutvam is important. Otherwise, we won't continue. And to continue this kind of Jnana Yoga, typically we have seen in our life, we would see any good practices, if we want to continue or we want to start, there will always be obstacles or hindrances. If we want to say, do puja for an hour, or meditate for 20 minutes or 25 minutes, only then we will have disturbances, phone calls coming in, messages coming in, people coming in, asking questions. We are always distracted. Only if we have something good to do. But imagine if we want to watch movie for 3 hours, we will not have any problem. The phone will be on silent mode. Nobody will disturb. Nobody will dare disturb us. We will not entertain any other thoughts. We will not entertain any other person. We will be watching the movie. But only for good things, there will be always obstacles and hindrances. If you want to sit and meditate, there will be a lot of problem. That's when we will think that our, the legs are getting numb. There is not enough, there's not enough breeze. We think of all the problems, or there are something is probably the nose is itchy, all those things only come then. But when we are watching a cricket match, or probably even a movie or a series or a serial, nothing of that sort will happen. We will not be aware of all those things. So the size of the obstacles does not depend on the obstacles itself, or the enormity of the obstacles does not depend on the obstacles itself, but it is only dependent on the intensity of our desire in that goal. If I have to watch that movie, or if I want to watch that match, I make sure that I am not disturbed by anybody. So it is my desire which decides what is going to be my obstacle. So, is it possible to practice this continuously? Yes, it is possible. We will have to have a deep desire for this goal. And today Shastras come to our doorstep. Previously, in those days, people will have to go in search of Guru. Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara had to walk from Kerala to the banks of Godavari to find his Guru. For him it was not difficult because he had that Mumukshutvam. So instead of trying to overcome obstacles, what we should do, we should just increase our desire for moksha. If we increase the intensity in our desire, the obstacles will not bother us. So this is important. So the next question comes in. How can I increase my desire? How can I increase my Mumukshutvam? First of all, to increase it, to start with, there should be a basic desire in Mumukshutvam. Without any basic desire, we cannot do anything. So the next question is, how do I get that basic desire? First of all, the question is not how, it is a question of when. When does one get a basic desire of Mumukshutvam? Only when the punyas start working. The punyas should work. See, generally we come with punya, some punya, otherwise we would not be born as humans. So we come with some punya, and that punya should be channeled or should be working towards spiritual goal. And once you have that basic desire, then it can be fanned up. Why we say that we should have a basic desire, and without basic desire nothing can be done? It's same thing even in the real world. If you want to make some money, or if you want to make big money, you will have to invest something. Unless you invest something, you will not be able to make it big. In the same manner, we should have a basic desire of Mumukshutvam that can be fanned up. And how do I get that fanned up? How do I get that intensity? We can again follow the techniques that are used by corporates, the big brands. What do? To increase their, to make sure that their products sell better, what they do, they advertise. They advertise on television, newspaper. Why? Because they don't want their name to be forgotten. So if it is toothpaste, I always remember Colgate, Close-Up. I always remember these brands because it's been advertised so widely. Then it's always in my mind. So advertisement is not about, what does Colgate contain? Does it have enough fluoride? Does it have salt? All those things are immaterial. Does it have the real, what are the ingredients within the paste? We are not looking into that. It is not to make you understand the product. The advertisement is not about making you understand the product. It is just a reminder that it is not forgotten. It is not taken away from our mind at any point of time. So even when I enter the shop, the name strikes. Similarly, in the spiritual world, for the spiritual progress, we should have already known the Purusharthas. We already know the 4 Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And we also know the sadhanas up front: karma yoga, upasana yoga, jnana yoga, all those things we know. But I should not forget this. I should keep remembering this at all times. And what is the advertisement for that? I need advertisement in the form of Satsanga. I should be in Satsanga always. Only then I will not forget these things. Question is then, what is Satsanga? So what is Satsanga? As I said, Satsanga is not about just getting into a group of people doing some bhajans, and that alone is not Satsanga. Satsanga means being in the company of saints. So if you go to some ashrams, spend some time with the gurus, the sadhus there, you see their lifestyle, you see how they actually behave, what they talk, listen to their lectures. Or Satsanga, this 1 hour, whatever we are spending is Satsanga. Listening to Shastras is another Satsanga. Reading books is another Satsanga. Listening to even Bhagavata stories. So you have stories of Ramayana, Bharata, Mahabharata, Bhagavata, or any of those Puranas, Shiva Purana, Vishnu Purana. If you listen to those stories, that is also Satsanga. Or keeping a photograph of your favorite deity or your guru or whatever, have them in front of you, seeing them, that is also Satsanga. So we should be in a situation that allows us to keep remembering this path. What is my path? What is the goal? I should keep remembering this. In other words, what we call as sankalpam. We should have a sankalpam that I am here for this path, this goal. Shastra says, sankalpat jayate kamaha. The desire stems from sankalpa. The more we remember about the object, the more we get a desire on the object. In the sankalpat jayate kamaha is explained clearly in chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. How actually desire comes through. Initially when we see anything, we will not get any desire. But the more we think about it, the more and more we think about it, the more we understand the desire, the intensity of the desire goes up in the same. So sankalpam is important. I need to be in the spiritual path. I want to get out of samsara. Moksha is the goal that I am in for. This sankalpam has to be there. So how do I get the deep desire for moksha? We talked about how to get the deep desire. How do I get it? When I keep remembering again and again. So we should create situations that we keep remembering this again and again. We should keep creating this situation in such a way to such an extent where this thought does not leave us. We always are in this thought. That way we keep increasing sankalpam and we improve our desire. Another way to actually increase our desire is basically understand the glory of the goal, as in understand the benefit of the goal. This is again used by the corporates, right? What they say? They say, what is the benefit of having this product? For example, they say, have a cool drink, it will freshen you up. So you feel that when you are tired, you want to freshen up, you think of that product. So the benefit of that goal is very important. So you want to have white clothes, the clothes even whiter and brighter, then we think of regal or all those things. Those blue or whatever blue. When I was a kid, there used to be a lot of advertisements. I keep remembering them. There used to be Sottu Neelam, Regal Sottu Neelam, whatever. So whenever we want white clothes, we think of that. So there is the benefit of coal. So in this case, we have to think of benefit of moksha. What is the benefit of having moksha? I have to keep remembering that again and again. And this is again another value that Bhagavan taught us in chapter 13. He says, Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam. This is the 19th value we saw. Basically bringing forth the benefit of this knowledge of truth. We saw that. So what is the benefit? I'm completely free. I'm not emotionally attached to anything or anybody. I don't have any wants or desires. I am Purnatvam. I don't have any shoka. I don't have any moha. I am always in a state of bliss. I don't have any problems in life. That is the benefit of this moksha. So I need to keep reminding myself about that. Because when I keep thinking of this benefit, I would get more involved and I will have more interest in doing my sadhanas. So just as in the advertisement, I watch the ad and I remember the benefits, and involuntarily in the back of my mind it goes into my mind, and I start liking the product again more and more with I see the advertisement. In the same way, I need to keep thinking about the benefits of this moksha, the benefits of doing this sadhana again and again. In the back of the mind, it just goes automatically and I keep doing it. In fact, this prayojana darshanam is very important. In fact, Bhagavan himself does this in Bhagavad Gita many times, where he keeps reminding Arjuna and also us in terms of the benefits that a person is going to get by having moksha. He will do it multiple times in many places in Bhagavad Gita, just to make sure that we have that interest in it. So prayojana darshanam is important, and seeing this benefit is also called vivekam, because and doing the sankalpam is called as abhyasa. So how do I get Jnana Yoga Vyavasthithi? I'll have to do vivekam, which is basically seeing the benefit, increasing the desire, doing sadhanas, taking sankalpam so that my desire gets higher and higher, intense and more intense. So this is the Jnana Yoga Vyavasthithi. Remember, we had seen Jnana Yoga Vyavasthithi in chapter 13 also, but here we are doing a slight something more than what we discussed in chapter 13. So the next one is Daanam. Daanam is the fourth value. Abhayam sattva samshuddhihi, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi, Daanam damascha yajnascha. So Daanam is the fourth value. What does Daanam mean? Daanam means sharing our things with others. Sharing our things with others. Some people say charity. Charity is not the exact word of Daanam, but it's okay. The lakshana of Daanam according to Shastras or lakshana meaning the meaning of Daanam is swatvasya yata shakti samvibhagah. Swaswatvasya means swa means our, swa means our, swatvam means our wealth. So swaswatvam, our wealth, yata shakti samvibhagah. Yata Shakti means to the extent possible. Sometimes we say Yata Shakti, we say while giving something to show humility, but actually it's false humility, but that's different. Sometimes we give very little and we say Yata Shakti, we say It's all false humility. But here the actual meaning, what for Daanam it says, Swasvatpasya yatashakti samvibhaga. To the extent possible, what needs to be done? To the extent possible, Vibhaga. Vibhaga means share it with others. So wealth has to be shared with others. Samvibhaga. Sam means properly. So it has to be shared with others properly to the extent possible. Each word here is important. Swa. Swa means our. It should be our wealth, not others. I cannot go around and distributing the wealth of others and then say I am doing Daanam. It should be my wealth. I cannot do somebody's wealth and I actually act as a chief guest or somebody and then donating somebody else's money and I am trying to feel good about myself. That should not be the way. It should be my wealth, not others. Swatvam. Swatvam means wealth. Wealth means what I consider mine as wealth. And what do I consider as wealth? Only things that are important for me, only things that are valuable for me. I should not be donating something which is, lying. This has been lying in my house for too long. Nobody is using it. I don't need it. So I donate it. And then therefore I can take pride in saying that I am doing some big charity. That is not how it should be. It should be not the unwanted thing that is lying in my house, but it should be my wealth. It should be something that I give value for. And then Yata Shakti. Yata Shakti means to the extent possible, which means I should not donate it in such a way that I don't have anything for tomorrow. At the same time, I should not do less also. Yata Shakti means. Vibhaga means, as I said, share it with others. It is not about sharing with, I give it to my son or daughter as part of my will and then say I have actually donated it to others. It has to be to others. Some Vibhaga. And then some properly, as in applying our intellect and with the right attitude.
R-O-P-E-R-L-Y.
With the right attitude, as in I should not be doing it with, I am a kind of a big man here, I am donating it, you need to feel bad about receiving it from me, or I should not have that superiority complex. So that is what it means by some properly. The attitude in which I give. The attitude that I show or have within my mind while giving has to be proper. So this is how Daanam has been defined by Shastras. And this virtue is a very important virtue. In fact, if there is one distinguishing guna between a Daivi-Sampad person and an Asuri-Sampad person, then there has to be only one virtue that differentiates them, then it can be only Daanam. Daanam is so important. There is a story, that when Devas and Asuras both their hands were tied, and they were tied to a stick which has got a long stick handle, and then there is a bowl at the end of the stick, and everybody was served payasam or kheer on that bowl that is attached to the end of the stick, which is tied to their hand. And in the end of the day, all the Asuras were still hungry and unhappy, whereas the Devas were all happy and they had their stomach full. The reason being is each of the Asura were trying to drink from their bowl that was given to them. They were not willing to share it with others. Whereas the Devas, what they did was, one person's bowl, they fed the other person fed the other person. In the same way, they were able to actually have the kheer among themselves. So this is a story to explain the Daivi Guna, the differentiator between Daivi Guna and Asuri Guna. So Daanam is a trait of sharing what one has with others. In fact, in chapter 17, Bhagavan is going to describe in detail about Daanam. He will segregate the Daanam itself into Sattvika Daanam, Rajasic Daanam and Tamasa Daanam. So, we are doing some here, we will do more there also. So, we will see some elements of Daanam here too. First, when it comes to charity or Daanam, I am going to use the word charity here because I can't find an equivalent word in English right now. So let's use the word charity. There are three aspects towards Daanam. The first aspect is basically the object of charity. Generally, when we think of Daanam, only two things come to our mind. Normally we say what? Annadaanam. We say annadaanam. Food. Donating food. Then we also think of money. We say money. Daanam, this annam daanam is very important because in those days in India, in our culture, food was never sold for many years. Or let me put this way, only in the recent past, maybe in the last 300, 400, 500 years probably, is when food has been sold in India. In those days, there used to be chatram will there be, or every household, they will be willing to feed travelers, any kind of visitors whom they don't even know, they will be fed because they are passing through this village and they want to stay overnight. Those people will be fed, they will be given even place to stay as in sleep, and then the next day morning they have their shower and then go. So this has been our culture. In our culture, food was never sold. And according to our Shastras, every living being has the right to eat. And therefore, food should not be sold at all. So that's why we have, sannyasis asking for bhiksha, bhavati bhikshandehi. Food is being donated. It is not the sannyasi has to give me rupees so that I will give him food. It doesn't work that way. Food was never sold. This is actually slight, because we are discussing annadaanam, I am trying to bring this out. But food was never sold. So annadaanam is important. Now this is the object of charity. It can be food, it can be money, but it can be more than that also. And when I said every living being has the right to eat. Therefore, that's why we have food for birds. We say we keep food for crows. We give food for akatikirai or greens to cows. In the night, they give food to the dogs. They have this kolam or rangoli for the ants. So we put some grains for the birds. Every living being, they have the right to eat. In fact, we have this, pouring milk in some of the mounds where in those days snakes used to live. Even snakes were fed in those days. There used to be some ant hills where sugar will be dropped so that the ants can live. Nobody was actually doing all kinds of pesticides to kill animals at all. They were ensuring that every living being were fed. That has been our culture. So this is about annadaanam. Now coming back to this object of charity. So annadaanam money, but whatever is worthy in us, it can be shared, it should be shared. It can be time. It can be time. So we have elderly people, we want to spend some time to make them feel good, to make them feel happy, to make them feel accepted, to make them feel that they are part of the society, they're part of the family. That is good. So time is, you can share. Knowledge. A doctor who is treating his patients, poor patients, free of cost, that is also a charity. So whatever one has, it has to be donated. It has to be shared. So this is the object of charity. Whatever is worthy to us, it should be shared. Not those things that we want to dispose. Normally what do we have? We have a small place in our house where we keep all those things that we do not want, but want to give it away for the next Navaratri or the next puja, whatever, or we keep it there because we don't want it. We'll have to gift it to somebody else, and it so happens after a few months it will come back to our own house after it goes around few houses. So this happens because what is unwanted for us is also unwanted for others also. And these days there are shops that even sell this Dana Veshti. As in, you need to give away Veshti, basically dhoti, to certain Brahmanas for certain events. And they have this Dana Veshti. Dana Veshti means these Veshtis are, these dhotis are probably cheaper. And it can be used only for a few times, after which it will probably tear. So people buy that. That is not called as Daanam. When something is given, we should feel that we are giving away something that is worthwhile to me. This has been worthwhile to me, I am sharing it. Only that is called as Daanam. That is how Shastras define Daanam. And this is basically the Sattvika Daanam. If you look at it, there are other things also that can actually identify whether it is a Sattvika Daanam. It has to tick a few boxes. One of the boxes have to be that whatever I give should be worthwhile, not just to the others but also to me. I should feel that something I'm sharing is worthwhile to me. Then the second one is, the first one is object of charity. The second one is to whom it is to be given. Arti. Again, we'll be seeing this in detail in chapter 17. In Tamil we say Paathiram arindu pichai idu. So Daanam has to be given to people who are qualified. If not, then it is not called as Daanam. So we'll have to identify suitable people, we'll have to identify appropriate person, an eligible person. And it could be difficult. It may not be easy because sometimes we not have the background whether this person is really in need. Is it really worthwhile? Today, many ways that people ask for charity and ask for funds, saying there are cases where people say there's an operation, this kid has got an operation, it's too expensive, they are seeking crowd funding and all those things. We have to make some amount of check in the background. Because not everything can be real. There can be some fake ones also. But somehow when we come to know, if we come to know that somebody is in a difficult position, we have come to know that this person is in a difficult position, then we should not, then there is no need for you to do a qualification check or something. We should just do the dhyanam. And even if there is a doubt on the eligibility of the person, it is better to give. Because if that person is, you have made that whatever little check you could, and then you can give it, you can feel happy. Even if the other person is actually not a qualified person or not an eligible person or is cheating, the papa goes to him. It doesn't matter. So when in doubt, you can always give. This is the second thing, to whom it is to be given. Then the third one is, what should be the attitude in us while giving it? And this is the most important thing. More than the object of charity, more than whom we give to, the attitude is very important. Because this is the factor that is going to decide whether I'm going to get papa or punya. I could give what is best in the world, or what I feel is most worthwhile, and this person could be the most needy person there. And yet, if my attitude is bad or wrong, I may not get the punya. So this attitude is important. So Daanam does not always result in punya. We should understand that. Not all Daanam will give me chitta shuddhi. People may have different kinds of motive while giving. Some people give it only to make the other person feel bad, or make them feel embarrassed. See, I'm giving you, and they make it in such a way that everybody knows that this person I am giving, this person is receiving from me. So to make them feel bad, small, or make them feel embarrassed, if that kind of attitude is there, then that is not real Dana. Or if we give something today with the expectation that I am going to get something back in return from that person tomorrow, or I am going to give it today so that I can get some benefit out of them at a later stage in my life, then that is also not called Daanam, because then it is called a transaction. It's a business transaction. You are giving today something, you expect something tomorrow. And in fact, if you don't get that tomorrow, you start criticizing that person, you start disliking that person, your anger goes up, all those things happen. So this attitude is important. Taittiriya Upanishad says, Shraddhaya Dheyam, it says. We have to give with Shraddha. In fact, according to our Shastras, a person who is giving, that person has more responsibility than the person receiving it. The attitude of the person giving is more important than actually the person who is receiving it. So when Taittiriya Upanishad says Shraddhaya Deham, what does Shraddha mean here? What is Shraddha? It means when I give something to someone, I have to give it with respect. I have to respect the person when giving it. We should treat the other person with respect and not shame them. We have a lot of those dhanams in all our rituals. Godhanam, Vastradhanam, there are so much of dhanam, especially in aparakaryams. After death, there are a lot of dhanams that needs to be done. All those have to be done with Shraddha, in such a way that we should feel happy while giving it. The person receiving, generally what happens whenever you are receiving, generally speaking, I don't know about a lot of people these days, but generally speaking, when somebody is receiving something, they have this feeling of guilt, they have this feeling of inferiority complex, they have this fear. And what we should do is, when we are giving, we should not give this person that feeling that, sometimes some people give it in such a way that the other person feels inferior. The other person feels that there is a guilt. He throws away things, or he does it in such a way that, this is not the first time you are asking. Some kind of a guilt feeling, creating that guilt feeling is there. So we should not give the other person this feeling. And these days it is, even within a family we can see one brother being rich, other brother actually not so rich. Within the family itself. But then the rich brother will not give it to the poor brother or whatever. Because he would say, let him come and ask me. Why should I give? Let him come and ask me. Because only if you come and ask me, this person's ego is satisfied and he has come and asked me, kind of things. And even if you want to give, people around you, the family itself, as in the wife or the husband or whoever it is, if the spouse could ask, why are you giving without they asking you? Why should you give it? Are you an idiot to give it without being asked? They will try to even discourage you from sharing. Or even if you want to give, they will say, are you from they mock at you. Are you from Karna's family? All those things they will do. So we have to understand that this is not Daanam. Daanam is about giving voluntarily with an attitude in such a way that the other person does not feel small or afraid or have an inferiority complex or have a guilt. And what happens, we say, let him come and ask me, because it gives my ego a boost. Oh, this fellow is asking me. So that, that other person feels small, and this boosts our ego. Shastra says, once you know that there is a need, you should donate. Not only when it is being asked. Once you know that this person needs money, just give. We should not be insensitive. If we are insensitive, it becomes a papa. Then there is another problem also with some people. They donate, but once they donate, they want others to know. And the person who has received has to acknowledge that this person, I have received help from this person. I have received some money or whatever Daanam from this person. They want the other person to actually go around the world and share this with others. If they don't do it, this person will not like to help. I would not like to help this person again, because he has not acknowledged the last time I helped him. This is the kind of attitude that we have. This is not Shraddha. Our bhavana should be with Shraddha. That alone decides whether it is Daanam or not. And this attitude, as I said, is this more important than the object of charity or the person who receives it. How we give is more important than what we give and to whom we give. And we should be grateful to Bhagavan, Ishvara, that we are on the giving side. Because at any point of time, we can be on the other side also. In Bhajagovindam it says, Haratini Mesha Kalat Sarvam. In few seconds, anything is possible. And we should thank Ishvara for being on this side. More about Daanam, a little more about Daanam in the next class. Any questions or comments? Okay. Not, we'll see again in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you. Hari Om.